FWD full ward diet. Forward. FX fracture. G gravidity. Guanosine. G6PD glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. GA general anesthesia. GABA gamma aminobutyric acid. GB gallbladder. GBS Guillain-Barré syndrome. GBM glioblastoma multiforme. Glomerular basement membrane. GC general condition. Gonococcus. GCA giant cell arteritis. GCS Glasgow coma scale. GCSF granulocyte, colony stimulating factor. GDA gastroduodenal artery. GDLH glutamate dehydrogenase. GDP guanosine diphosphate. GERD gastroesophageal reflux disease. GFR glomerular filtration rate. GGT gamma glutamyl transferase. GGTP gamma glutamyl transpeptidase. GHRF growth hormone releasing factor. GI gastrointestinal. Gift gamete intrafallopian transfer. GIST gastrointestinal stromal tumor. GIT gastrointestinal tract. GITS gastrointestinal therapeutic system. GMC general medical condition. GMP guanosine monophosphate. GN glomerulonephritis. GnRH gonadotropin releasing hormone. GOAT Galveston orientation and amnesia test. GOD glucose oxidase. GOT glutamic oxalacitic transaminase. GP general practitioner. GPT glutamic pyruvic transaminase. GRAVI indicating woman during first pregnancy. GSW gunshot wound. GTN glyceryl trinitrate. GDT glucose tolerance test. GU genitourinary. Gastric ulcer. GVHD graft versus host disease. GXT graded exercise test. GYN gynecology. H-hour. H-histamine. Hemagglutinin. HX history. Hypertonia arterialis. Headache. H/A headache. HB% hemoglobin concentration. HbA hemoglobin A. HbA1c glycosylated hemoglobin. HBD has been drinking. HbF fetal hemoglobin. HbP high blood pressure. HC hemorrhagic colitis. HCC hepatocellular carcinoma. HCG human chorionic gonadotropin. HB% hemoglobin concentration. HbA hemoglobin A. HbA1c glycosylated hemoglobin. HBD has been drinking. HbF fetal hemoglobin. HbP high blood pressure. HC hemorrhagic colitis. HCC hepatocellular carcinoma. HCG human chorionic gonadotropin. HBsAg hepatitis B surface antigen. Ha hepatitis associated antigen. HAV hepatitis A virus. HBV hepatitis B virus. HCV hepatitis C virus. HDV hepatitis D virus. HEV hepatitis E virus. HGV hepatitis G virus. HCl hairy cell leukemia. HCM hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. HCT hematocrit. HCT hematopoietic cell transplantation. HCRP hospital cornea retrieval program. HCDZ hydrochlorothiazide. HD Hodgkin's disease. HDLC high density lipoprotein cholesterol. HDU High Dependency Unit. HNE Hematoxylin and eosin. Hint head, eyes, ears, nose, throat. Help hypertension, elevated liver enzymes, low platelets. Hemohydroxyethyl methacrylate. Hema test. Fecal occult blood. Hes hydroxyethyl starch. HETE hydroxyicosatitranoic acid. HFM hand, foot and mouth disease. HFRS hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome. HCSIL high grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. HH hiatus hernia. HNH hemoglobin and hematocrit. HHT hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. HHV human herpes virus. High homicidal ideation. HIB Haemophilus influenza B. HIDS hyperagood syndrome. HIT heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. HIV human immunodeficiency virus. HL hepatic lipase. Hodgkin's lymphoma. Hearing level. HLA human leukocyte antigen. HLHS hypoplastic left heart syndrome. HNM hematemesis and melena. HMD hyaline membrane disease. HMS hyperreactive malarial splenomegaly. HMSN hereditary motor sensory neuropathy. HN hemagglutinin neuraminidase. HND hemolytic disease of the newborn. HNPCC hereditary non-polyposis colorectal cancer. HX or H/O history of Hob head of bed. HOCM hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. HONC hyperosmolar noncatotic coma. HNP history and physical examination. HPA hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. HPAD hydroxyicosatitranoic acid. HPF high power field, microscopy. HPI history of the present illness. HPOA hypertrophic pulmonary osteoarthropathy. HPL human placental lactogen. HPS hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. HPV human papillomavirus. HR heart rate. HRCT high resolution computed tomography. HRT hormone replacement therapy. HS hours of sleep. HS heel to shin test. HSC human chorionic somatomamotropin. HSG hysterosalpingogram. HSIL high-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. HSB Hainoxian line purpura. HSV herpes simplex virus. HT hypertension. HT height. HTLV human T lymphotropic virus. HTN hypertension. HTPA hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. HTVD hypertensive vascular disease. HUS hemolytic uremic syndrome. HVLT high velocity lead therapy. IA intra-arterial. IABP intra-aortic balloon pump. IAI intra-amniotic infection. IC ileocecal. Immunocompromised. Informed consent. Intensive care. Interstitial cystitis. Immune complex. IBC inflammatory breast cancer. IBD inflammatory bowel disease. IBS irritable bowel syndrome. ICD implantable cardioverter defibrillator. ICDS integrated child development services program. ICD-10 International Classification of Diseases 10th revision. ICF intracellular fluid. ICG impedance cardiography. ICH intracerebral hemorrhage. ICP intracranial pressure. ICS intercostal space. ICU intensive care unit. ICCU intensive cardiac care unit. ID infectious disease. Identifying data. IND incision and drainage. IDA iron deficiency anemia. IDC idiopathic dilated cardiomyopathy. Indwelling catheter. Infiltrating ductal carcinoma. IDDM insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus. IDL intermediate density lipoprotein. IDP infectious disease precautions/process. If immunofluorescence. IFG impaired fasting glycemia. IG immunoglobulin. IGT impaired glucose tolerance. IHC immunohistochemistry. IHD ischemic heart disease. IM intramuscular. IMI intramuscular injection. IMA inferior mesenteric artery. IMB intermenstrual bleed. IMN infectious mononucleosis. IMT intima media thickness. IMV intermittent mandatory ventilation. INC incomplete. INH isoniazid. INJ injection. INR international normalized ratio. INT internal. IO intraosseous infusion. INO inputs and outputs. Intake and outputs. IOL induction of labor. Intraocular lens. IOP intraocular pressure. IP interphalangeal joint. IPF idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. IPS intraperitoneal sounds.